Coming up on this week's Racing News Show, we've got some exciting news about a new race being brought to you by GCN in partnership with Zwift. We ponder which Tour de France contenders may benefit from having such a short build-up to the race, who's been doing what on the indoor trainer, and all the other race-related news. We're going to start with some very exciting news of our own though. We are delighted to be able to tell you that we will be broadcasting the Zwift Tour For All 5-stage race. This is going to be the best virtual pro race to date, featuring both men's and women's teams battling it out on exactly the same course and distances on Zwift. We'll have Rob Hatch, Danny Rowe and our very own Cy Richardson on the commentary, and Dan Lloyd will be presenting too. You'll be able to watch all the races on the GCN app for free, so if you haven't downloaded it yet, what are you waiting for? The link to the app is on the screen now. Make sure you keep an eye on our social media channels too, where we will be announcing the team and rider lineups as well as the stages. On top of that, we've got an exciting new show starting on Saturday the 9th of May, Giro d'Italia Classic Stages, where we'll be celebrating recent history from the Giro. Dan will be presenting a 90-minute show each day for 3 weeks, showcasing a classic Giro stage. There'll be interviews and lots of race content, including retro content on the app too. You'll be able to watch all of this on the GCN app in the brand new Race TV section, so another great reason to download the GCN app if you haven't. We've had some more epic indoor sessions done by some of the pro peloton in the last week. Mark Cavendish of Bahrain McLaren and Luke Rowe from Ineos Everested in the virtual world on Zwift, completing 10 hours and 37 minutes and a total of 884 metres of climbing over 221 kilometres. Fair play to them both, some epic turbo sessions there. Some more epic climbing now from Israel startup nation's James Piccoli. He's aiming to climb Mont Royal for 12 hours straight to support workers combating the COVID-19 pandemic, aiming for 320 kilometres and over 12,000 metres of elevation. Great to see so many pro cyclists doing everything they can to support key workers. On Twitter this week, Trek Segafredo rider Ryan Mullen shared some of his power files with us. He took part in the Ross-on-Sea Club time trial, and he did an all-best power for 20 minutes at 464 watts. I don't even think I could hold that for a minute. All those prologues and World Tour races, and he goes and does the best 20-minute power on Zwift in the club time trial. Last week, Dan mentioned that Bigla-Katusha had their main sponsor pull most of their funding. The team has now launched a crowdfunding campaign to help support the team in the rest of the season and pursue the goal of becoming a World Tour team in the 2021 season. Sponsor Katusha has now announced that all sales from the women's team kit will be donated to the team to help support the riders. You can find all the team's details about the crowdfunding on their social media channels. Some positive news now, as the 17-year-old has just been snapped up by UAE Team Emirates and has been given a whopping 5-year contract. Juan Ayuso is the Spanish national champion and has already been on a training camp with the team late last year. Ayuso won't turn 18 until September, and signing for a World Tour team at that age is unprecedented. It's even younger than Remco Evenepoel was when he signed for De Koning Quickstep. It's unknown whether he'll go straight into the professional squad or whether they'll try and find him a continental team for the first year. A 5-year contract is extremely rare, but we wish him all the best as he embarks on his professional career. The cycling calendar remains in a state of uncertainty as the French Minister of Sport dismissed the idea of having the Tour de France behind closed doors. As things stand, the rescheduled tour is on August the 29th, but some people have concerns that this is too soon to ease social distancing measures. But it could be taking place anyway, asking fans to stay away from the roadside. The French minister has said the Tour de France requires spectators, without which the race may become financially unstable. Race start towns pay to have the privilege of hosting the Tour de France, and without any fans, they will be getting nothing in return. The French government has now prohibited all major sporting events until September, which puts the start date into jeopardy. We're expecting more announcements from the UCI by the end of the week, but as things stand, the Tour de France is scheduled in to start on August the 29th. The National Championships will take place a week before that, and there has also been talk of Criterium de Dauphiné taking place before that too. But scheduling the Tour de France so early on into a rejigged calendar means that the riders will be hugely under-raced compared to what they used to. Even if they ride the National Road Race and Time Trial and Dauphiné, the most any rider will have taking to the start line of the Tour will be 10. Needless to say, this falls far below the number of race days top Tour de France contenders are used to having. We took a look back to 1995, where the race calendar looks quite similar to what it does now, where the Vuelta was moved from April to September, and the average number of race days the winner had that year was 32. More than triple any rider can expect to have in their legs come August the 29th. However, this did get us thinking. Which of the Tour favourites is this going to suit, and which is it really not going to suit at all? So again, we put the GCN stat nerds to work, and they looked at the 7 favourites of the Tour de France: Bernal, Thomas, Froome, Roglic, Dumoulin, Pinot and Quintana, and looked at the average amount of racing they did before the Tour de France in the past few years. Perhaps it's unsurprising, but it's Chris Froome who had the lowest average number of race days with just over 30, and it was Thibaut Pinot who had the highest with 42. Now, we aren't saying that Chris Froome is definitely going to win the Tour de France and Thibaut Pinot isn't, but it might give a little indicator as who is best equipped to handle such a short build-up to the Tour de France. And in case you're wondering, when our very own Dan Lloyd rode the Tour in 2010, he managed a whopping 54 race days before the Tour de France started in July. Quantity over quality, hey Dan? Now, last week's poll was a hot or not on our brand spanking new kit that we had designed with Castelli. 80% of you said it was hot. The rest of you, I'm guessing, said it wasn't hot because Dan was modelling it. Our poll in the app this week will be: how many number of race days do you think the pros should have before the Tour? 10, 20 or 30? Head over to the GCN app and get voting. That's it for the GCN Racing news show this week. Don't forget to download the GCN app if you haven't already, so you can watch the Zwift Tour For All.